Hey guys, welcome back to the DGN Sports Network. Today we're going over the SEC East over-unders for season totals. We're going to jump right into it and try to shorten these videos a little bit for you. Starting out at the possible top with Florida, who is last year was 11-2 in the total and 6-2 in the conference. Once again, this SEC this year is a 10-week, 10-game, or I guess 11-week, 10-game all-conference schedule. Florida's over-under is 7.5. I'm heavy on the under on this one. Their West opponents this year are Ole Miss, Texas A&M, LSU, and Arkansas. I don't see them doing any worse than going 2-2 in those games. But if they are to lose to Texas A&M and LSU, then they have to win out to hit the over. I think that there's a lot of margin for error here. And when there's a lot of margin of error, I'm going to go for this, what I consider to be the more conservative side of the bet, and take the under. Going straight to Georgia from Florida, the other major favorite to win the conference, the East. And Georgia last year was 12-2 and 7-1 in the SEC. Their over-under is set at 8.5. Once again, this is an under for me. The West opponents they play are going to be Arkansas, Auburn, Alabama, and Mississippi State. I think Arkansas is a for sure win. I think Mississippi State is probably a for sure win, even though I'm really interested to see what Mike Leach does there. Auburn is a rivalry game that's always very tough for them, and then they pick up the never pleasant task of playing Alabama in the regular season. I just don't see them getting through this schedule without another blemish. I think they go 3-1 in those West games. And I think they probably drop another one to end up going 8-2. And I'm thinking that this under is all but a lock. I don't like to use that word because it always comes back to bite you. But if you made me choose, I'm going to take the under there. Moving on to Kentucky and Mark Stoops' team. Last year they were 8-5 overall and 3-5 in the SEC. Their win total is set at 5. The West opponents they play are Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Alabama. I think this one's an under as well. I don't see them doing any better than 2-2 in the West games. Last year they won 3 games in the conference. They're going to have to win 5 in one more game or 2 more games. I don't see them picking up 2 more wins out of this. They did have a lot of change in their quarterback last year when they moved Lynn Bolden, the receiver. When Bowden, I'm probably saying his name wrong. They moved him to quarterback. And he was phenomenal in the ball game and really good when he played there. But, you know, I'm not as sold on this being an under as I am on Florida and Georgia. But I'm just not really sold on them picking up extra wins when you add Auburn, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State. None of those games are an easy win for them. To Missouri, whose over-under total is 2.5. Last year Missouri was 6-6 with 3-5 in the conference. Their West schedule this year is Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and LSU. That's disgusting. I mean, everything from Missouri and Arkansas both this year in the conference is just really gross. I think they probably beat Arkansas, but I just don't really see them doing that well anywhere else. Still, I think they can probably back into 2 more wins throughout the rest of the year. 2.5 is a very low number, especially when Arkansas is a very probable win. I see them finding another win or 2, probably at South Carolina and possibly Mississippi State. I mean, Mississippi State's such a wild card, but I believe that they'll be able to pull out 3 and go 3-7 and hit this over. On to South Carolina, who is 3.5 is their total. They were 4-8 last year and 3-5 in the conference. Their West opponents are Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss. I don't see them winning a game out of those 4. I think that, and you know, when I'm naming out the West opponents, I'm only doing that because everybody plays everybody else in their division. So it's just common sense to name the other cross-divisional teams. For South Carolina, I think they're an under. Yes, 3.5 is a low number, but I don't think that they've improved from last year, where they went 3-5, and they didn't get any. They have no favors in their West opponents. I mean, every team that they play in the West is tough. They don't get in Alabama, so I mean they don't have a absolute certainty as a loss. but I don't see them splitting or going 2-2 in those games and picking up any steam there. I think that they'll go 3-7 in the season. Tennessee is next on our list. They were 8-5 last year and 5-3 in the conference. Their win total is set at 5. They get Alabama, Arkansas, Texas A&M, and Auburn in the West. Honestly, I wouldn't bet this one because I think they're going to go 5-5, and this is going to be a push. You could, if you were an optimistic person, think, well, okay, well, if you think 5-5 is realistic, is Jeremy Pruitt going to improve them enough to make them possibly go 6-4 or better? I really think Pruitt's a good coach. I think that's a possibility, but I don't think it's a probability. I think in all likelihood they end the season 5-5, and that this is just a wasted tying your money up for no return bet. Vanderbilt over/under set at 1. Last year they were 3-9 in the regular season and 1-7 in the conference. Over/under set at 1. Once again, the conservative bet here is to take the over because there's no margin for error. They can back into a win any given week. I think that they will play Missouri very tough. Their West opponents are Ole Miss, South Carolina. I'm looking at this wrong. I apologize. They're Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, and I will check very quickly to see who the other opponent is. A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State. I mean, there could be a worse draw there. I mean, depending on how much change there happens to happen at the Mississippi schools, Vanderbilt could possibly pull off a victory in either of those games. I think Derek Mason's going to start feeling a little bit pressured for his job if he doesn't see a lot of improvement quickly, and I think that the over's the bet to take here. I'm still unable to put graphics up, so I will put our picks down in the link in the bio. Also, please subscribe and like our channel. We're doing our best to try to develop more content. We're really excited for these games to get started, so we'll have more to talk about instead of me just sitting here blabbering on, and we'll try to get it set up so we do another Zoom and have the other guys in on these as well. Thank you again for coming to see us.